Well, great Scott, it's the action guys.
What one man can do, another can do. How you doing, man?
What man could do, another could do, Charles. He's too smart, Charles. He's been tracking us the whole time.
He has a really good, like, whiny bitch voice in this movie.
When this is the action. This is the greatest movie ever made, guys. If you're wondering what the F you're watching, we're talking about The Edge. And before I just started rambling, I need everybody to know this is the greatest movie ever made.
It's the greatest movie ever made. That's why it's the subject of the show today.
We could not have
greatest movie ever made.
We could not have picked this film had it not been the greatest movie ever made.
This is true. And, you know, I'm really excited to talk about this movie. I didn't realize that it had been 4 years since we covered this on AMA. Like, that seems impossible to me. This feels like a definite 2 years ago AMA movie. Like, this feels that's how much of a great episode it was, that it has lived on that long in my memory as something that happened very recently.
Yes, it is an episode that has lived on in infamy. This is a movie that, if you would ask me when we met 8 years ago or whenever it was, do you think that The Edge with Alec Baldwin and Anthony Hopkins someday is going to be one of the iconic movies we talk about? Zero chance.
We had both seen it, right?
So I can't remember. I think you knew what the movie was and maybe had seen it as a child, but basically had no memory. And for me,
I watched it. I remember watching it at my buddy Trevor Farmer's house. His parents had a black box.
Yes.
And they recorded every movie that was on cable. So I had watched The Edge at his house, but I didn't really remember it.
This was one of those movies, I've told you this before, that I had those tapes that I got at a yard sale once. I got like 8 of them, and they had 6 movies on each side taped off HBO or some like channel or whatever. And so I got like somewhere in the 5 to 12 or like 5 to 10 movies per tape, basically, depending on how much was on there.
Oh, yeah.
So I had like 70 movies as a kid that I watched a lot on VCR. And this was one of them. And this was one of my favorites. I watched this movie a lot. And, and then I stopped watching it. But when it came back up, like, I realized how well I knew this story. I will tell you, there's a lot of things about this movie that are great. This movie is totally underrated. We used to talk about this movie like it was a silly, guilty pleasure. This movie is genuinely pretty good. There's only a few things about this movie that are like kind of questionable. In general, it's super compelling. It's like a really good watch.
Well, dude, okay, so sorry, I didn't mean to be distracted there, but I did just link our episode of AMA into the description because that's something that I should do for all these episodes that we're going to cover of the greatest movie ever made that have also been on Action Movie Anatomy. So that is in the link, and you can go watch it after you're done here, and you will have a great, grand old time. And I totally forgot what I was going to say about what your point was.
Yeah, what I was saying is that this movie is genuinely good, and this show is called The Greatest Movie Ever Made because it has a segment where both Drew and myself are going to pitch you guys on why this is actually the best movie ever made. I'm going to throw to you for your point, and then I have a few things to intro before we get into the meat and bones of the show.
Well, do you want? No, go ahead. Why don't you get into your points? Those are very important. My my tangential thoughts are not as important. So let's get into the nitty gritty.
So yeah, this is the greatest movie ever made. This is officially the first episode of the show. This is actually the first show we're doing. The soft launch of this show on Sunday of last week was Sabrina Ramirez. We talked about The Patriot, another classic, another one of the best ever. We talked about The Patriot. So this is the first one that we're doing like a real episode of the show. This is going to be every single Saturday. So this is a thing we're now doing. All Action Movie Anatomy, Action Guys, Action Industries. Well, not Action Movie Anatomy because that's not our show, but all Action Industries content is happening at 5 p.m. on this channel. That's the new thing. Fridays, 5 p.m., Saturdays, 5 p.m., Sundays. Action Guys is moving up 30 minutes to 5 p.m.
But not tomorrow. Tomorrow's episode with Dan will be at 5:30 like normal because we already told him before we decided this. But yeah, I'm excited to have a very consistent schedule that goes all through the weekend, man.
Yeah, me too. And so the kind of premise of this show is that we are playing a lot of like the same analytical fun games that we played in the past with other movie shows we've done. We have a bunch of new ones. And the first 10 or so episodes of the show are going to be Hall of Fame episodes of Action Movie Anatomy we did kind of with our new format. So we put out a poll on Patreon. You guys voted. That list of the 10 movies is going to be revealed at the end of the show. During the pitch, we're going to actually announce the whole entire thing for you guys. So stay tuned there if you're excited. I think otherwise,
and our episode next week is going to be really, really good. I'm very excited for it. I mean, I love all the movies we're covering, but this one sits in a very special place in my heart. So let's get into the show. But what I wanted to say before we get into the show is we used to end every episode of Action Movie Anatomy, obviously, with the pitch. But before that, it's the 3 categories. And when I was watching it today and listening to what you were saying earlier, this is actually the point that I was going to make, but I figured this is a more appropriate time to make it. It sounds like this movie felt a little bit more legitimate to you this time upon viewing. Now, I don't remember what we ranked it when we covered it on AMA. I don't remember if we covered it or if we, it was totally legit, totally ridiculous, or ridiculously legitimate. But before we get into our greatest movie ever made moment, I want to start it with, what do you think about this? Because this movie is a survival movie about getting hunted by a bear when you're in its territory, the whole blood thing. So tell me, what do you think?
So it feels like there are still some things about this movie that are absurd. Like, there are still a few things about this movie when watching it that make me feel like it's in the ridiculously legitimate category. I think the justification that it's a good movie is what makes it that category, because it does have at least a few things that are pretty compelling. On the other hand, if you ask me to tell you what are the most ridiculous things about this movie, I don't really know what they are, honestly, aside from the fact that he impales a bear on a spear, which is kind of absurd.
But that he pulls it from an old piece of artwork.
Yeah.
He pulls it from a legitimate old piece, like essentially like a hieroglyphic, if you will. That is how you kill the bear. Is like, that's how you spear a bear by yourself, is you have to have it like wedged in position. So like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like upon review that this movie actually feels way more legitimate than I think I gave it credit for.
I think that this movie, and we're going to talk a lot more about it throughout the show, but as I watched it this time, my general feeling was, okay, this is one of the best Alec Baldwin movies. This is one of the best Anthony Hopkins movies. And when you compare this to the category that it's in, which is thriller, it's its own, it's a survival thriller, but
is it really a thriller?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is.
Right? This movie scared the shit out of me as a kid. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you put this in the category of thriller, which was a 90s special, the 90s were fucking famous for thrillers. I mean,
we should have just not done this show and just done our 90s thriller show, because it is our number one go-to guilty pleasure. Anytime you're traveling, it's late at night, we don't want to think. It's always like, Along Came a Spider, Kiss the Girls.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong here, didn't Lee Tamahori direct one of those movies? I think Lee Tamahori, the director of this movie, did Kiss the Girls, maybe.
I think that's maybe what he did. I'll pull it up here, but that's the other funny thing about Lee Tamahori is he has a name for me. For some reason, when you hear his name, I just think like that guy's a famous director.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I don't know why.
He's done like 5 or 6 pretty notable.
He did Along Came a Spider. Yeah, he totally did. But he's so not. Like, I go back and look at his filmography and I was like, wow, I was just wrong. I was just straight up. If like your number 2 ranked known for is Die Another Day, not good. Yeah,
agreed. So my point though is that I think if you compare this to the genre that it's in, and this was a genre that in the 90s was just like ran rampant. Whether it's like political thrillers or it's courtroom dramas that are kind of thrillers, like there was so many movies in the mid 90s. This one is as rewatchable as almost any of them. I found myself watching it thinking like, what do I cut from this movie? If I'm editing this and I'm trying to make this a tighter movie, there's almost nothing. I mean, maybe the first 10 minutes is a little slow, I guess.
Yeah, maybe they spend like an extra minute because the movie's still under 2 hours. I'm okay with a movie that's under 2 hours that's like this. There's got to be good setup. You've got to believe the chase, like the cat and the mouse part of it, so it can't be forced. It can't just happen like back to back to back to back. There has to be moments for it to breathe. And the moments where it breathes, you've got dialogue that's written by David Mamet and acted by Anthony Hopkins and Alec Baldwin. Yeah, that's like that alone right there. You're like, wait a minute. So the in between the exciting stuff is like David Mamet written dialogue acted by Anthony Hopkins. Okay,
sign me up, right?
Yeah, I'll watch that for 3 fucking hours.
So yeah, guys. So we're going to talk in just a second about why this is the greatest movie ever made. Couple quick shout outs. We've got Molly S. and Philip Gustafson have both upgraded to the captain level on our Patreon this week. That's a big salute to you both. That gets you the Action Rewind series. It gets you the Captain's Cabana. Very, very exciting level. Thank you guys so much for those upgrades.
Also, sorry. I was going to say salute to you and I. We both did our hair today, and it looks like we're normal people.
I did think about sitting down to do this show and thinking about like if we're in this phase for like 3 months, 4 months of just home broadcasting, one of the lessons.
Oh God!
I was going to say one of the lessons Kevin Undergaro, our mentor over at AfterBuzz TV, always told us is like, as a host, set yourself apart, which is one of the reasons that we would always show up to work in suits and well dressed, because so many broadcasters in this day and age, are wearing a superhero t-shirt in their living room, and there's nothing sets them apart, right? There's nothing wrong with it, but he always would say, if you're a professional, treat it like a job, dress up. And as we broadcast from our living room, so many of the broadcasts have been like a dirty hat and a t-shirt, bad lighting, just like, and just getting lazier and lazier. And I was like, if it's our first show of the new show today, I'm going to put on a jacket. I'm going to shower. Let's do this.
Yeah, I put on a new shirt. This is a new shirt I actually got for my birthday from my mother.
So I love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, man. So I know you were in the middle of the shout outs for were there more shout outs you were about to do?
No, those are the shout outs. But I was going to say, we also have coming up on the show today a handful of really fun things. We're going to be doing a segment called Blockbuster Corner. We're going to be bringing back Cage versus Cruz. Denzel is going to be there this time. Very excited about that.
Yes.
We're going to be watching the trailer for this movie in just a second, which I am overwhelmed with excitement for. This is one of the trailers. This was like when we talk about like the trailers that we always reference. This is a photographer with an eye for beauty.
A photographer. Yeah, that's the best line. I mean, honestly, I think that is just the best line.
It's one of the best ones. It's one of the best ones ever. I really don't know how to fix my lighting. Garth McMurray here in the chat says, speaking of lighting, Ben looked good on Roxy's stream, but here he is pale white again.
I think it maybe must be the proximity of you to your window and the sheerness of your curtains. I think that's got to be it, because I think if you were farther away, or if your curtains were a little darker and you use the actual light, maybe that would be better. But I don't know, man. That's just those are just my thoughts.
Yeah, it's fair enough. So yeah, we're going to be watching the trailer in just a second, guys. A quick shout out to everybody watching. If you're a patron, obviously you're supporting already. If you want to drop comments and Streamlabs on Super Chat, we will be taking a segment on the show to read those out loud later. And we have a call in coming a little later from a general in the Action Army, John Getz, who's going to be sharing his thoughts on the movie.
Yeah, and right before I want to get into the trailer, I want to just say we did have a Streamlabs donation before we even went live from, excuse me, Rats and King with a $5 Streamlabs donation saying, I actually bought The Edge because I was very interested in it after you guys covered it on AMA. I saw it about a year ago, and I really loved it because I could look at it and enjoy it with your mind's perspective of it. It's no Excalibur, but it's great.
That's amazing. Well, Ratson, thank you so much for it. Do you think this is the single movie in the history of AMA that we've turned the most people onto? Because it definitely seems like this is the movie when people reference.
I mean, I think I think it has to be Warrior, right? Yeah, because that's the one we've been pioneering for forever. But this is definitely a second place, like hands down, without a doubt, second place.
People love Warrior. Nobody loves this movie with us. Now there are more people that love this movie.
Yes,
which is sweet.
All right, you want to watch the trailer?
Yeah, let's do the trailer, man.
All right, let's do this. I love this. I'm so happy. Did you? Okay, really quickly. Did you realize that we did get flagged yesterday? We got a notification.
Yeah, but it was
copyright.
It was for Roka's TikTok. Right?
Yeah, so it's really that's karma. That's karma. We deserve it. We made fun of John. We watched it like 3 times in a row, and we ended up getting a copyright claim on our YouTube account
because of his song that he used.
Because of his song, but. What's great news is that we did not get copyright claimed for showing the trailer, and I miss watching the trailer. So here we go.
God, this trailer's sweet.
Here we. Oh no. Okay. Well, sorry. I took all that time to talk, or we took all that time to talk. So an ad came up. So give me 2 seconds.
Good for you.
Unless we want to watch the Natalie Portman, I think we're gonna hear it.
Masterclass ad. That one. Thinking of, it's a good one.
That's exactly what it is.
If you guys are in the meantime, we're waiting for this. If you guys are waiting for this trailer to play, hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't already hit the thumbs up button, you're watching the show. Hit the thumbs up. Let's get this thing pushed up in people's standings. The more likes on this thing we can get, the better. So please hit that thumbs up.
Oh, this is great. It's even a full screen trailer.
A photographer with an eye for beauty.
Yes.
Let's do one more.
Nice looking lady. Your wife?
Yeah.
Nice looking lady.
A man of wealth who lives through books.
A man of wealth.
It's so good. Through books.
These facts, but putting them to any useful purpose is another matter.
Each the essence.
God, Baldwin's sweet.
This man.
Well, Charles, we're going on an impromptu adventure.
He's such a fuck, dude. He is such a fuck.
He's so good in this.
And I think your wife's pretty cute too. So,
That's such a
how you
weird-
planning to kill me?
Oh, I love this,
The line
dude.
that's literally before the plane goes down. That's a fantastic piece of writing.
So what's your plan? So how do you plan to kill me?
The plane goes down. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so good.
You know what happens when you misplace one?
All they have is each other to rely on.
Most people lost in the wilds the guy of shame because they didn't
And
have
that's
anything that
shame,
could save
Bob.
their lives.
Also, Harold
They'd have
Perrineau
shame,
dying
Bob.
first. The black guy dying first in this
Oh.
movie is the oldest trope in the world.
I had
It's
a
outrageous.
whole segment about the whole 90s cliche of killing the black guy first.
Art the Bear, legend.
That's really Anthony Hopkins swinging from the branch.
I couldn't kill you with Steven around it.
He's 60 years old.
Knows how I like my coffee.
I love that they just show him dying in the trailer.
Just give it away.
There's like no way you can get away from a bear that's that close to you.
All anybody wants take something from you when they want it bad enough to kill you. Bad enough to kill you. I've seen you with her.
20th Century Fox presents Academy Award winner Anthony Hopkins.
Nice.
You want to
And one of the Baldwins.
Alec Baldwin.
Money's folk. Sit up there, drink some golf, but get you in an emergency.
You bloom.
You bloom.
You make me sick. I'm sure I do.
He doesn't even talk like that.
And the nature of man lies the edge.
Oh,
God, it's good.
Today, I'm gonna kill them.
come on, guys. You can't give the line away in the trailer. That's horrible. That's horrible. But the
That's
trailer,
a
honestly,
great-
it's
Yeah.
so good.
That's a great trailer. I mean, like,
Top 5 trailers all time.
yeah, it's because it's right from the same era as Congo. It's 2 years apart. It's like it's exactly the same guy. It's the same structure. Like there was something about those '90s trailers. Like, so give me that, but
It's like
nothing.
say something enticing in the
Yeah.
beginning.
Because like, so I'll take that kind of trailer, and then I'll give me the trailers from like 2010 onward. But everything that starts like the whole entire 2000s, those trailers are generally pretty horrible. Like they're not good trailers overall. They get
It's
better
like
towards the end.
super hit and miss. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we do have General John Getz, hanging out in the wings. Should we bring him in for the greatest movie ever made segment?
I think we can bring him in, and then that way we can pitch ours. And if he wants to pitch one, I don't know if he prepared one, and then we'll go straight into fist bump. So that way he
Okay.
can be here for the whole thing.
Yes. All right, let's do it. Here we go. General John Getz coming in. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Hey guys, what's up?
5-star General Getz, introducing John Getz.
A photographer for an eye.
So, anyways, prepare to what exactly?
Yeah.
So this is the first official episode of this. We gave you zero instruction.
Yeah. You don't have to be prepared for anything.
Yeah. But you have watched many episodes of AMA, which means that when fist pump moment comes, you at least will be fully prepared for fist pump moment. You watched this movie for the first time, right?
Yeah, I just finished it about a half hour ago.
Okay, and give us thumbs up, thumbs down.
So thumbs up.
Oh no.
The last like 30 minutes after can we spoil it? I'm guessing? Yeah, okay.
No, wait,
after
hold
they
on,
kill
hold
the
on,
bear,
hold on.
I'm like,
Movie-
there's still 30 minutes left in this thing. What's gonna happen?
Well,
And
okay.
then-
So what did you think? What did you think about the last half hour? Because so I'll be honest. Over the last few days, I've watched this movie 4 times in the background. Like last night, I turned it on seriously, but then I fell asleep. So today is like the whole. I watched it for real. And I remembered like maybe not looking forward to that last half an hour. But I actually gotta say, I really enjoyed it today. So what did you think about it? How did you actually think about it when it unraveled?
Like it was a little bit more entertaining than I guess I thought it would be. Because after the bear died, I was kind of like, this is going to be really anticlimactic.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then they did a good job of the tension building whenever he's like loading the rifle and everything.
Yeah.
He's like, you can't do it sober, can you?
Can you, Bob?
Can you, Bob? But it's definitely a movie that like kind of peaks in the middle and then it kind of goes. Now I look like Fauci. I'm like, it just kind of peaks in the middle and then starts going down in the second half. But it still kind of has a couple little spikes. The deadfall was pretty cool.
Well, it's also wonderful. It's also wonderful too. Like Baldwin, how much of a bitch he turns into as soon as he falls in the deadfall. He's like,
Yeah.
oh God, Charles, Charles, I think I've broken my leg.
I think
I'm not going to kill the motherfucker, Charles. I don't know.
Charles, I would have done it. Yeah, he's a little bitch. But okay. So Ben, tell me, why is The Edge the greatest movie ever made?
Okay, The Edge is the greatest movie ever made because it represents everything going on in the world right now. In Alec Baldwin, you are representing the tragic arrogance, the stupidity of the human race faced against the tyrannical rule of Mother Nature, obviously represented by the bear. They're being hunted by a foe that only the intelligence, wealth, and preparation of a billionaire willing to reinvent himself in the world, to truly start his life over again, ditch everything he knows and has known before, is what's going to save us from the tyrannical rule and the crushing defeat of Mother Nature. It is truly what the world is experiencing right now. The Edge is a metaphor for life, and that is why The Edge is the greatest movie ever made.
I gotta say, man, you got me on like 90% of that. The only part that you lost me on was the billionaire saving the world. You should have just said it was a doctor.
Genius billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
You just said doctor or something. Otherwise, I think it's pretty. I think it's good for you, man.
I convince you? Did I convince you? Kind of.
I'm not too far off of thinking this is the greatest movie ever made, but I do have to say that was a very inventive theory there, and I think it's good. I think it's strong. What do you think about it, Getz?
Well, when you first started, I was like, how's he going to bridge this gap? But it actually turned out pretty well. I got to give you credit. It was very eloquent. I'll say that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, Liam Gilpin here in the chat. I'm sold. Wow. Thank you, Liam. I appreciate that. Big smile on his face right now, I'm sure.
God damn it. If you got Liam Gilpin, how can you be upset about it? No, it was good. It was very good.
Drew, tell me, why is this the greatest movie ever made?
Well, look, man, I mean, with the way the world is looking right now, we could be in quarantine for 20, 30 years. Who knows? I don't even know. It's crazy right now, huh? The unknown. Yeah. So what's going to happen is I'm going to come out of this. I'm going to be fat. I'm going to be older. I'm going to be more learned. But you know what? The Edge has inspired me to know that I can accomplish anything. I can be an old man superhero because this is the greatest old man everyday superhero movie ever. Now, you might say, what, every day? He's a billionaire. But here's the thing. He's not a billionaire when he's out in the wild, right? He's just a normal man that he has to go off of being learned from books. So he's 60. He's legitimately 60 when he films this movie. He gets goddamn hypothermia when he falls in the river. Okay, they don't ever show like a shot like for real in the movie with Anthony Hopkins and the bear because you can't risk a national treasure like Anthony Hopkins. Okay, he's an international treasure. So why is this the greatest movie ever made? Because you have a 60-year-old hero that proves to you, to Joe Schmo, to me, Andrew Guy sitting here during quarantine, gaining weight by the second exponentially, that I can accomplish anything. I can kill a bear that is hunting me in the wilderness because I am intelligent, because I know what the North Star does, and I know where south is.
Your brain. I appreciate that explanation, Drew.
My brain. Yeah. That's it. No, I mean, honestly, though, I'm serious. Like, this dude is 60 and he survives this thing. And the reason I wanted to start the show off with what I said was because when I watched it again, it does feel pretty legitimate. Now, the only part of it, I guess, no, it still feels legitimate. We only know that he got hypothermia because of like show notes from Action Movie Anatomy, in which case, like, obviously Anthony Hopkins needed a doctor, but he didn't get hypothermia in the movie. He just fell in the river. So, like, if you're 60 and you don't, I don't know. I think for real, a 60-year-old dude could have pulled this off. I'm into it.
I'm going to read here Jeremiah Morris in the chat. The reason this is the greatest movie ever made is that it shows the power of the human mind and what it can do against nature, that learning and knowledge overcame all that we can conquer, everything.
That's what I was trying to say, Jerry. You just said it more eloquently than I did.
That's an excellent. Okay, I like this. This feels a little more in line with the greatest movie ever made pitch than last week, where we were just like, this movie's fucking sweet.
Well, yeah, man, because who's gonna actually believe that Anthony Hopkins can kill a bear for real? Like, that's why you have to get. I mean, obviously we all do now.
I think you still could.
John Getz and 36 other people, but more so is like, I believed it. Yeah. Anyway, what do you think, Getz?
Well, having just watched the movie, I'm not sure if I'm ready to call it the greatest that I've ever seen or anything. About 20 minutes later, but
what about your fist pump instead?
Yeah, that's the next segment on the show. Well, let me just guess before you jump in. Let's tell the audience what it is. The first episode of a new show, and then I want you to go first. Fist bump moment is that moment something happens in the movie. You kind of look around. You're like, you seeing this right now? This is the coolest thing I've ever seen. You literally have one of those, yes! You want to call your buddy and be like, turn it on, cue it up to 17 minutes in. This is exactly where you need to watch this. You have to see the scene. It can be anything. It can literally be anything you want it to be. It's an old segment from AMA. John, what do you got?
Well, it's probably a pretty obvious one, but whenever they're getting hyped up to kill the bear, and he's like, say it. Say I'm going to kill the motherfucker. I know it says, say I'm going to kill the bear.
And again, Bob.
Say it again, Bob.
Kill the bear, Charles.
You're goddamn right. I'm going to kill the motherfucker today. Oh, my God.
I mean, you called me, Ben. You said you had a physical fist pump when that happened. You legitimately, in quarantine, at home in your apartment, you stood up and you were like, yes.
You punched the ceiling and it hurt.
When I watched it again, the other day, I loved everything about it. But that scene got me so hyped up in the same way that it always has. That's like truly the scene. To me, it feels like in this movie where it's like, this is elevated. This is like an iconic scene in both of these guys' careers because it's like super, super hype. And honestly, the levels of it are done really well. You know, like it's acted well too, because Baldwin does really truly seem defeated. I don't know, John. You know, like he's just uninterested in doing it.
There's something like oddly, I mean, Baldwin is not super likable in this movie, which is great because he's not supposed to be. And you don't know if that's because he's acting that way, which I think it is honestly more him acting that way than just him being unlikable. Because honestly, at this point in Alec Baldwin's career, he was kind of unlikable. And we'll talk about that more later. But that scene in this whole entire movie, he really, really carries his weight. He carries his own and he holds it with Anthony Hopkins. I mean, Anthony Hopkins is one of the greatest actors ever, right? And like Baldwin really holds his own with him. And that scene is a true testament of like, I don't know. I don't know if it's just because Hopkins is that good. I don't think it's because Tom Mahori is that good of a director, or maybe honestly, because now we've seen what Baldwin's done is like, he's become much older. Like maybe he always just was a great actor. Maybe it just was other things he struggled with when he was younger.
He's like a true superhero in this movie, like you said in your pitch, because he's sitting there sharpening the spear, and he's like, "Say it, Bob. I'm gonna kill the bear." And he's like, "We can't kill the bear, Charles." You know, and he's like, so he truly believes it, and Hopkins has to say to him, like, "Say it, Bob. I'm gonna kill the bear." And when Baldwin first says it, "I'm gonna kill the bear," you're like, "This is getting good. This is simmering, and it's gonna boil over in a second." It's so fucking hype, man. That scene,
and they sell it too, because when he when he goes into the what one man can do, another can do, that's the moment where like it could go bad, right? Like that's where like in a different movie with a lesser director or an actor or co-star, it goes bad. But when he goes and he says, "Well, one man can do, another can do," and then Baldwin's just immediately, "What one man can do, another can do. I'm gonna kill the bear." Yes,
you see the focus on Baldwin's face because he goes. "Say it, Bob. What one man can do, another can do." And Baldwin goes, "What one man can do, another can do." Say it again. "What one man can do, another can do." And you can see he's zoning in. He's like, if I don't do this, I'm going to die. This guy is a billionaire. He knows what he's doing.
A billionaire.
I need to let my ego go and follow this learned man because he's going to save the day. It's fucking awesome. Gets, I agree with you. It's the best scene in the whole movie. I don't even think there's like really another.
No. Is there any other scene that's even close? I mean, the first, what am I going to do? He's going to be lay down and die, Bob. Like that seems great.
Good one.
That's a good scene. Anytime Anthony Hopkins yells, it's pretty great.
I also really enjoy. I really enjoy the scene where the guy is like, "You can tell me what's on the other side of this paddle," and Hopkins knows, and Baldwin is so disgusted with him knowing. Yeah. He's so annoyed by him. Like it sets up their relationship really, really, really well because you're just like, this guy, how did he know that? He knows everything, and he's a billionaire. Like what? And then he just hates him. You can hear he's so annoyed. Now, why would that be, Charles? Why would that be?
All right, so Getz, before we let you go, I want to ask you the same thing that I started the show off with Ben. Is this movie totally ridiculous? Is it totally legitimate? Or is it in the middle? Is it ridiculously legitimate? Because you just watched it for the first time. You've heard us gush over it for years. What do you think?
It's ridiculously legitimate, I would say.
Okay.
Because you know what really puts it more towards the absurd end is the guy mortally wounds himself while sharpening a damn stick. How did that even happen? It kind of threw me out of it during the first. I'm like, how did you do that? There's a couple of other ridiculous moments.
He's like, am I going to lose my leg? Like, if that's the first thing you say after you cut yourself with a pocket knife,
you sharpen it
you
like this.
deserve to die first.
How does that happen?
Can we also talk for a second about how bad the acting is by Harold Perrineau in that moment? He slices his leg and he's like, oh, God, what have I done? What have I done?
Well, I mean, I feel like, though, don't you feel like maybe he was just like, oh, no. And the director was like, no, bigger. Tom Hori was like, it's got to be bigger. Because he like, he like yells from off screen. It's, so you smelly Negro. Oh, come on. Oh, that's horrible. Why did I just say that? I was just reading the name. That just feel bad. Now I just feel bad. That's not a good name.
It's all right. I haven't visited my aunt from Mississippi in a while. I haven't heard that.
What I was going to read is that the acting is really bad, and it completely is. It completely is horrible by him throughout his entire showing in the film.
Yeah, pretty much the whole time he's on screen. It's pretty loose. Getz, General, 5-star General John Getz, a big time salute. Thanks for stopping by for the very first episode of the greatest movie ever made, man. We hope to have you back on again soon, and stay safe, stay healthy.
You guys too.
Take care, brother.
You pal.
All right, man. So, well, that was horrible that I just said that out loud.
Yeah, well, really you got tricked. Somebody tricked you.
I did. Someone did trick me. All right. So let's read. We got 2 more super chats here, or Streamlabs donations. Jeremiah Morris with the $5 donation says, watched this last night, having never seen the AMA before in my time, and I love this movie. It's a thrill that is totally believable as something that could happen. My fist bump moment is when he stabs the bear. I was just like, yeah. I mean, so you, how do you actually feel about the stab with the spear? How do you feel about that moment?
Okay, so I think that probably, and I'm just guessing, but I think probably it's realistic as far as what could happen. I think the thing that's unbelievable about it is that he would puncture the bear's heart and the bear would immediately stop moving. I think the size of the bear and the aggression he was moving with would mean that he would probably get stabbed through a non-lethal part of his body and bleed out, but he would still just slash and destroy Hopkins.
You think he would just be going crazy, like thrashing still?
Yeah, or at least one arm would already be in motion or something. Like that's the kind of the...
And like Hopkins, because you remember when The Revenant came out, there was like all this stuff about like the studies of bears and like what one swing of a bear's claw can do to like literally rip the back of your head off, right? Like it's not like you get punched really hard and it like breaks a rib. It's like it actually rips you apart with like one swing. Yeah. So like Baldwin's 100% dead. Right.
Oh, when he takes the slash to the stomach, and also when Hopkins gets whacked and he flies like 10 feet, they're both just destroyed.
Yeah. I mean, like maybe there's a way to believe that somehow Hopkins was like, I don't know, not punctured, and it just like, but then as a 6-year-old man, you're like, all of your bones are broken. Like they are just broken.
They do whack the bear with the big like spike ball thing, so he's a little injured, I guess, and he's also tired probably because he's been chasing him and running down a hill. But it does feel like that's the least believable part of the movie.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then obviously like the end, the whole deadfall, the foreshadowing from the beginning, and then him seeing it when they get there, and then Baldwin not noticing it, and then like Baldwin moving around enough to step on it, but Hopkins not. So like that's like a classic like Hollywood moment, right? The face off. But I was still okay with that part. But I think the stuff with the bear, I definitely, maybe that's probably what put it in the middle category for us originally, was you get hit in the stomach by a bear claw and you're done.
100%. Yeah, there does seem to be some sort of saw going on outside my place here. So if that's picking up, guys, I do apologize. What I was going to say is, because we didn't technically share our fist pumps, it seems like we kind of are all on the same page that scene is just the ultimate fist pump moment. But I do think there's one other thing about this movie I noticed when I was watching that I really, really loved. And it's actually somebody else. I think it was Liam Gilpin here. General Gilpin. It is my unconventional fist pump is the score during the helicopter flight before the crash or during any shot of the landscape. The score by Jerry Goldsmith in this movie is really, really wonderful. It's like, really epic. The
score in this movie is actually really good. It's really good.
It's got that. It keeps doing that through the whole movie, and it's like feels very exciting. Like it's very like nature adventure.
Well, and it feels intense. It feels like it has stakes to it. Like it just feels very, very appropriate for this movie because it can't be like too serious. So it has to feel like kind of silly epic at certain moments, but it's like just enough.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. I think like that was the other thing I really noticed that stuck out to me this time is how memorable I found the score to be. Yeah. So, anything you want to share before we get into a quick star profiles?
Well, I was going to say, so what did you think about like what Jerry here says about all the foreshadowing? Because that is something that I saw someone else say in the chat earlier, and obviously there is a ton of foreshadowing in this movie. They talk about the birds, they talk about the deadfall, they talk about the I like almost everything is spoke about before it happens in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. So one of the things you and I have acknowledged before when we've talked about movies and screenwriting is that, neither of us is a screenwriter, but we've both watched a zillion movies and had a billion conversations about those movies. So when you are constructing a script, there are certain principles you have to follow, right? Like there are things that you're kind of told you should follow, and then there are things that really master screenwriters will kind of break. They'll kind of break the structure to do something different. But you'll often find that if somebody breaks the structure to do something different, it doesn't resonate with the audience. It feels flat, it fails, it falls on its face. Even something as interesting, and a spoiler, I guess I won't spoil the ending, but the kind of controversial ending to The Way Back, which I think is one of the great triumphs of the movie.
I thought you were not going to spoil the ending of this. I was like, what? Like, what? Why?
And, the sort of controversial ending to The Way Back, it's a really interesting choice, but for a lot of people, that movie isn't good because of that ending, right? And that's an ending that's kind of bucking the trend of what sports movies usually feel like. And so I think when you talk about foreshadowing, it's in there for a reason. It's in there to make it feel like a payoff when those moments happen. If you don't throw any foreshadowing in there, then you have to find a way to explain to the audience what a deadfall is if you're going to use that to kill Bob, and
like
then
why it would be there. Yeah, they're honestly, because a lot of the foreshadowing, it's interesting because Jerry said that he watched it for the first time and he noticed a lot of foreshadowing. So maybe that's because we're saying it now, and then he thinks about what he saw and what he heard, and then he's able to put it all together. And then he's like, yeah, there was a ton. Because honestly, when I go back and I watch this, trying to think of it as the greatest movie ever made, because that's the other thing, man. That's what I love about this show, is that I get to go into watching all these movies with a completely different eye. I go into watching every movie as a critic, looking for things that are wrong, whereas I go into watching these movies for this show looking for everything that's perfect.
Everything that's right.
Movie, which is just so ludicrous because, like you said, these aren't the best movies ever made, but these movies are very, very good. So speaking on the foreshadowing, when I was watching and listening out for it this time, it's honestly like pretty subtle most of the time. It really is, like just mentioning things like a deadfall or mentioning things like the birds and like flying. It's like, well, first of all, no, we don't need to get into that. But like, the birds and the flying, the migration patterns, and obviously that's what ends up crashing their plane. If that's a real thing that you have to worry about when you're in that place, then obviously that's something your pilot's going to say. It's just, of course, it lines up perfectly on that day. But right, like, isn't that what movies are made about? Is the 1 in a million chance, not every day.
100%. I think that the foreshadowing is fine in this movie. It's a little on the nose, which I think is what some people are sort of thinking creates a little bit of a problem. But to me, it doesn't distract or ruin the movie. It feels a little bit like, David Mamet wrote the script to be a little bit, I think, of a self-referential, like there's supposed to be a little bit of like some cliches in here, which is probably what some of that stuff's about. So even like, Harold Perrineau being the first guy to die, in an action movie in the 90s, the black guy dying first, I think David Mamet's way too smart to put that in the movie and not realize how kind of absurd it is.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe he just killed it in the audition. The character was written for anyone. I don't know. I can't remember if they make any race references in the movie. Maybe that's just how it ended up, and then he was just not good. So, this is an interesting point for both these guys. Obviously, Hopkins has just won the Academy Award like a few years before this. He's done the things that he's done, right leading up to this. He's got Nixon, August, and Surviving Picasso all within the last couple of years. So it's weird because Anthony Hopkins never really feels like a ticket selling guy, right?
Well, yeah. So I think what's funny about this is it's 6 years earlier is that he's in Silence. So that's 91. Yeah. This is 97. Mm-hmm. So his first 3 or 4 years after he does Silence, he's doing movies where he's basically trying to get nominated for Oscars. So he does The Remains of the Day. He gets nominated. Nixon. He does Shadowlands where he plays C.S. Lewis. He's doing that kind of movie, right? 97, he does Amistad. But like, this is a point in his career where he starts to make like Instinct, this movie. He's doing like, there's something else like kind of, I think Hearts in Atlantis is a couple years after this. He's like, he reprises his role obviously in 01 and 02 as Hannibal. So he definitely is getting into the point in his career by 97 where he's not really getting the kind of like groundbreaking movies that I think he would hope to, which is probably where a movie like The Edge and having to go back to the well just a couple years later, because this comes out in 97. You got to figure he starts shooting the Hannibal sequels 2 years later. So this probably like the result of this period of time is like, yeah, maybe you got to go back and do the thing again because like you're not really selling the tickets we'd hope you'd sell. It definitely does feel like that's where this movie exists for Hopkins. Whereas with Baldwin, this is clearly a point in Baldwin's career where he has fallen off a cliff. He is, and I think this is a good sort of moment for us to talk about a segment we're going to do called The Finer the Wine, which is that, I like actors. I like some actors a lot more in the second half of their career rather than the first. And I think Alec Baldwin he comes off in the 80s. He starts to get some prominence, and by the early 90s, that's when he's like really peaking. So by the early 90s, Alec Baldwin is doing, Glengarry Glen Ross. He's doing Hunt for Red October, right? Mm-hmm. Like he's a guy that by the early 90s, he is sort of like asserting himself as like, I'm the dominant Baldwin. I have 4 brothers, all of whom are in movies, but I'm the best actor. I'm handsome, all the things. But for whatever weird reason, he turned down the role of Jack Ryan to keep doing those movies. He decided to not be Jack Ryan. Harrison Ford took over. And by like 1996, 1997, he's making The Edge. He's like not a movie star at this moment.
Yeah, well, he definitely had, issues with substance abuse and stuff, right? Like that was like a real big problem that he had. So you never know like what's going on in someone's mind at that time. And maybe The Edge was more of like a cash grab than anything else. And but then maybe he read the script and he was like, I could do this. So I don't know all the behind the scenes with this, but for sure, this is definitely the way on the downside for Alec Baldwin. And then he still keeps going down after this because this movie, even though we love it, was not like widely revered by most.
I mean, yeah, if you think about it, Alec Baldwin around this time, you can see he's starting to put a little bit more weight on. He's not as skinny as he was, real skinny, handsome with the piercing eyes. He's starting to look a little older.
The eyes are still very piercing.
Still very piercing.
Yeah.
And his 3 movies that he did before this, Ghost of Mississippi, Heaven's Prisoners, and The Juror. This movie is written by David Mamet. So is Glengarry Glen Ross. So you got to figure he probably reads the script of this movie and thinks it's a Mamet script. I think this could be a good thing.
I wonder if Mamet even got him the job on this because at this point Baldwin was like falling off so much.
Yeah, it's interesting. I told you the other day I looked up the speech because I was looking up the top Alec Baldwin movies in preparation for this to try to figure out kind of where he's at his strongest. And there's a movie he's in from like 1993, I think, called Malice, and he has this speech where he's an arrogant surgeon who I think somebody dies under his knife. And he keeps getting referred to as having a God complex in like a deposition where he's being told by his lawyer not to talk. And so he gives this speech for about 2 minutes about like basically when people are praying to God to save their family member, who do you think they're really praying for? Basically, he's calling himself God. It's called the I Am God speech. And I watched it and I was like, God,
hey, you told me about it.
I was like, this is a legit, like, very iconic moment. Why is this not more famous? Like why? And it's a reminder that early Baldwin, he was a really good actor. Like that early stuff when he was really going for it before obviously this period of career we're talking about, he was a guy that really should have had a better career. And he's had a great career. He just should have had a more of like a commanding leading man type of career. And he just didn't. He decided not to do it, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I really don't know. So with Josh Ryan Sports here, we got a few super chats here to get through in Streamlabs. We got Chris Scorpio with $3 on Streamlabs. Says, guy is a legend, but Ben is so lit. His future is so bright. He is so bright that others pale in his future is so bright that others pale in comparison. Hashtag turn down for what? Hashtag coffin life. I think you're talking about your lighting. I'll be honest.
Seems that way. Chris, very funny.
Josh Ryan with the first super chat says, can't make the stream, so have fun, everyone. Also, after rewatching Serenity, I think it would make a fantastic AMA or greatest movie ever made. Still my favorite of all time. Have you seen Serenity?
Are you talking about this? You must be talking about Serenity, the one from, but not the shitty one we saw recently. The old Serenity with Nathan Fillion. Yeah, I saw it in theater, but I haven't seen it since theaters.
And did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, I've never been compelled to watch it again, but I liked it.
Okay, all right. Rats and King with another donation says the foreshadowing in this movie is used as a learning tool for Anthony Hopkins rather than just consistently foreshadowing what's going to happen in the movie. And the main characters are still shocked by every event that happens, which is why it works. Oh, that's a good point.
That's a good point. That's an Excalibur level point.
That really
Josh Ren Sports with the super chat here. Sup, y'all? Where is Charles on your list of Hopkins performances? Also, what would Baldwin's career have been if he did Patriot Games? And I assume he means probably also Clear and Present Danger. Stay safe. I would have to think about all of the Hopkins performances, but this is probably pretty high for me.
It really honestly is, because as great as Hopkins has been in his career, there's not like a ton of movies that like pop out to me as just like great. Obviously, Hannibal Lecter is one of them, but then what's the next one that immediately pops in your head? Mask of Zorro.
Yeah. He is like super, super sweet in Mask of Zorro. I have to.
He is.
Yeah, he's pretty great as Odin. I really like him as Odin a lot. That's probably his most recently iconic performance, right?
Yeah.
And, I feel like, and then there's stuff like, isn't he
really you like him as Odin that much, huh?
I like him as Odin a lot. I mean, I don't think it's like an incredible performance. I just think like that's going to be one of the most memorable ones comes to mind for me. Looking through kind of his stuff to see what else I'm forgetting that I like.
So Action Industries here, which is PLD, writes Westworld. I don't know if this is like going to get me crucified.
Yeah.
But acting well in a TV show is still not the same as acting well in a hugely revered feature film.
Yeah, agreed.
And like Hopkins is the type of person where like you hear that he acts well in a TV show that's good on HBO and you're like, well, no shit. That's Anthony Hopkins. Like Westworld's good. Well, who's in it? You're like Anthony Hopkins and Ed Harris. And you're like, how could that be bad? You're like, unless it's a horrible writer. So like, I completely understand what you're saying. And yes, that he is amazing in Westworld, but like as a feature film, like, like that one role, because, I've heard of him in Westworld. I don't know what his name is in Westworld off the top of my head. It's not like a Walter White level yet.
Yeah, right. Looking through his full career, he's been a great part of a ton of memorable movies, but he doesn't have a tremendous number of like, that's the best character. One of the best ones, though, I just saw, and I think you would agree, is
Atlantis. No, what?
No, I was just reminded of it. I mean, Mask of Zorro is sweet, but the one Legends of the Fall. That comes to mind as a great one. Legends of the Fall.
I do love Legends of the Fall. Didn't you just watch that for the first time recently, or was it that you got Jeff to watch it for the first time?
No, it's like Jeff's favorite movie ever. I watched it like 4 or 5 years ago with him.
Yeah. God, that movie's so good.
Yeah, really good. So I think who are some of the other guys you can think of that the latter part of their career, speaking back to Baldwin, you feel like they get better? Because I like Baldwin he gets into like the 30 Rock era where he's showing up in The Departed, when he's showing up in like The Aviator. Like that's the part of his career that I like him a lot more. It's something about the weight and the like cynicism. He's just like really wields well. Anybody comes to mind for you?
Yeah, and I think this could be controversial because people love him so much when he's young, but I really love an old Kurt Russell. Yeah, I really do. And I think like even Miracle On is fair to say, even though that was like a long time ago. I still feel like that's still like a different Kurt Russell than what we saw in like Overboard and like Escape New York,
Yeah,
Escape from New York.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. That like I think with a lot of actors, what ends up happening is that
mustache. I think maybe it's just facial hair. Maybe it's just like who grows the sweetest facial hair when they get old. Because Russell for sure. So sorry, continue your thought.
Mustache is excellent. I think one of the things that's so interesting is when there are certain actors who, when you look at them, like the shape of their face or the sound of their voice changes, and it's harder to identify them as like they don't register the same way.
Bill Pullman, exact opposite.
Yeah, like Pullman, or like Richard Gere, when he got older, he started it doesn't feel the same when I watch him. Whereas other guys, I think about Paul Newman's a guy who, like, I love young Paul Newman. He's like very James Dean as young, but like Newman, like 80s forward, is my favorite. Like I like him. I like him the most. Even like the 70s on, but the first like 20 years of his career, I don't like him as much. I think about even Tom Cruise. I really think about Cruise like 2001 on.
I'll even piggyback with that with Leo. Even though Leo is still younger than Cruise, only like by like a decade, but like I like late Leo way more than young Leo.
Yeah,
way more.
There's like it's the same thing with Baldwin, and
I'll take Rick Dalton over Jack any day.
Yeah, because I think like sometimes when an actor is younger, it's almost distracting. I would just even go as far as to say a performer, not just an actor or an actress. When they're younger, when they're in their 20s, as a 31-year-old man watching an actor that I know is like 24, it's like you don't have the life experience to convince me in this moment. Like I can see it in your face. You look too young. Like that's like that doesn't feel realistic, and that's like a hard realization to have.
So we got Liam Gilpin, general himself here, saying, does Ben Affleck qualify because of the town on? Honestly, I was going to say Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. Like, I think about Matt Damon now and Matt Damon like Rounders.
Yeah.
Like, I want to hit Matt Damon and Rounders in the face. Like, I love Good Will Hunting, but Rounders, I want to hit him in the face. And Ben Affleck, when he's young, I kind of just want to hit him in the face,
Yeah.
But honestly, both of them as older dudes, I love them now. And it's crazy because they've grown up. They've honestly grown up as entertainers in the limelight. Like I know they were still in their 20s when they broke in, but like you think about how long they've been as famous as they are, and they've really gone through it the same way that like someone like Leo has. Like Leo was like a kid actor, but like these guys were still kids when they broke through. And like I love Damon and Affleck so much more now, other than Good Will Hunting.
Yeah. It seems like the sweet spot for a lot of the performers we're talking about is that late 30s into 40s era, when there's just a little, it seems like there's just a little bit more life experience, a few more wrinkles to kind of sell us on them. That's definitely how I feel. Affleck, I like more now, but I actually think, who was I just thinking? Like, it's weird. It's not with everybody though. Like I like younger Ed Norton more. I don't like older Ed Norton as much. For whatever reason,
he's not as likable. I mean, I feel like you probably like older Denzel more than younger Denzel.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely like older Denzel. Like for sure, Denzel like 2000 on. Like Remember the Titans on. He seems way sweeter. So what do we got?
I'm gonna kill the fucking bear.
So, guys, I think we've talked a little bit about Tamahori. We talked a little bit about David Mamet already. Mamet, obviously, Pulitzer Prize winning screenwriter, director. He's very legendary. Tamahori, not a guy that really is super relevant for us to talk about.
No.
I'll let you take Critical Box Office for a quick second on this movie.
Yeah, let's just breeze through it very, very quickly. It was produced by Fox, cost $30 million to make. It was released in September, so a fall movie of 97. It grossed $43 million worldwide, with $27 million of that coming here in America. And it was number 4 when it opened its opening weekend at $7 million behind The Peacemaker. Big shout out to Clooney there. In and Out. And Soul Food. Oh my God. I have to Google that.
Do you love In and Out? Is that a movie you love? Why do I feel like you love that movie?
Is that the Kevin Kline movie?
Yeah.
Yes. Do you know who plays? I actually can't even remember why Burt Reynolds is in that movie, but the answer. The question was Burt Reynolds was the answer, but yeah, Burt Reynolds is in that movie. Kevin Kline's amazing in that movie. I think it's like Kevin or Matt Dillon or something that is the one that outs him, even though he's not gay.
It's either Matt Dillon or Christian Slater.
That actually sounds right too. I gotta look it out. I love that you were like, you love that movie, don't you? I do.
There's obviously, I obviously
Matt Dillon.
have.
Thank God.
Matt Dillon. I think there's also people keep making references in here in the chat that Janine, the Machine.
What was I saying?
You said Burt Reynolds.
I meant Tom Selleck. Sorry.
People keep referencing that Janine the Machine's favorite movie, like of all time, is The Cutting Edge, and that's what some people thought this episode was. That's the ice skating movie with like I think it's like Annette Bening or like Michelle Pfeiffer and like maybe I'm not even sure who's in it to be honest.
Yeah. No, I don't know who's in it either. I don't know if those are right or not, but I do remember her talking about this movie. I know nothing about it.
Yeah. It feels like a movie that at some point we should just watch just to be closer to Janine.
All right, so it's got a 6.9 on IMDb. It's got a 60% by all crit. Oh, this is funny actually. So, this is old school. This is back when Rotten Tomatoes did all critics, top critics, and audience. It got a 60% by all, 64 by top, and a 70% by audience. But we also used to do this thing where we would read reviews on AMA. So I'm actually going to read this one, Ben. I'm going to read the rotten one here from James Bernardinelli.
Okay.
From Real Reviews, and I'll let you take the one from Susan. He says, I laughed frequently. Excuse me. I laughed frequently, but the problem is that I'm not sure the director intended there to be as much humor in this film as I uncovered. Yeah, it is fair, honestly. Like considering how many years of laughter we've gotten out of this movie.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a lot of laughs, definitely. I think that just the fact that we laugh about this movie as much as we do is almost proof that it is firmly in the middle category.
Yeah.
The fresh review here from Susan Stark, Detroit News, is Anthony Hopkins' first action movie cast him as a gentle, brainy tycoon stuck in the Alaskan wilderness with only voracious bears and just as threatening Alec Baldwin for company. There's a lot of humor in Baldwin's delivery of a lot of his lines. I was thinking about there's also some very funny writing that I think this movie could have been different with different actors. I really think that if you had cast two different people, this movie could be very distinctly different.
All right, Charles.
Yeah. but okay, so like the moment when Baldwin's like smoking a cigarette and he's like, little different than the fashion world, am I right? And he's like, how so, Bob? And he's like, little different than taking lines of coke off models' hip bones, right? Exactly how, Bob? Like there's a lot of humor in their delivery and like some of the ideas with those lines, like even just that line.
Very different than the fashion world. Different than doing lines of coke off models' hips, right, Bob? Right, Charles.
Like Statham, I don't know, man. I don't know if you're gonna make it in this one.
Okay, so on that note, so Cage versus Cruz versus Butler versus Finney versus Neeson versus just kidding.
Yeah.
So I'm just fully convinced that if Denzel Washington was of age, Denzel Washington right now, if you were to make this movie and he was cast as Charles, think about Denzel as he's convinced that he has to be smart.
Who is Bob? Who is Bob in that situation?
Okay, so if
Denzel is Charles, who is Bob?
And I love the idea of Denzel being like looking at the Baldwin character and just nodding, so arrogant, so condescending. Okay. And then whoever the character's like, you make me sick, and Baldwin and Denzel being like, I'm sure I do, just like.
Yeah, no, I would love Denzel. I wish I could remember more of the lines, about what's the name of the constellation? He obviously talks about the Northern Star, but what's the name of the actual constellation?
I'm not sure what the name of the constellation is.
It's not Orion's belt, but yeah, I don't know. Hearing Denzel talk about constellations would be pretty great. I'd be into that.
If it's Denzel and who would the younger character be? It's got to be somebody closer to late 30s or 40.
Someone really whiny, like Miles Teller, but he's not old enough. He needs to be older.
Could be. You could put a good mustache on Miles Teller. He could be.
Who would do that? How could you do that? As much as I'd love to keep doing this, man, we're already at an hour. We are already at an hour right now. I know.
Wow, I guess we gotta roll through some of those last stuff and wrap up here, man. I'm having too much fun.
I know. I'm definitely bummed because I wanted to get through more of those lines as more of these people, but we'll save more time for Cage versus Cruz Plus for the next episode. We used to finish every episode of AMA with something, Ben, but there's only one thing left to do.
It's called the pig.
Wow.
So starting this week, not tomorrow, but starting this coming week, all of the action streams will be 5 p.m. Friday, 5 p.m., Saturday, 5 p.m., Sunday, 5 p.m. So Friday's unfiltered. Saturday is going to be the greatest movie ever made. Sundays, that's going to be the action guys. And we took a poll on our Patreon, which is patreon.com/Team Action, where we will continue to take polls to inform this show. And the first 10 episodes of this show were decided by you guys. So we have the full list of movies that we'll be covering for the next 10 weeks, as well as the first movie we'll be covering. So starting next week on Saturday, 5 o'clock, we are going to be covering Logan.
Yes, dude. Yes. I cannot wait to talk about Logan again. It's been so long. It's one of the movies that I wanted to cover again on AMA. And I remember when we covered it on AMA, we both loved it so much, but we're like, there's the recency bias. We got to see if it lives on in our hearts the way that it did, originally. And I think it completely has.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more, dude. I just real quick, because there's so many good ones in the chat here. Yeah. Rats and King, Shia LaBeouf as Bob. That's incredible.
Oh, that is amazing.
That's really good. And I actually just was thinking, if you put him in the right makeup with the right hair, so he looked just young enough, couldn't you make Nick Cage Bob right now?
There's no way. The bear's too smart, Charles.
I can't do it.
I can't do it. You got a pretty cute wife.
And why would I want to kill you?
No, why would you know that, Charles? Why would anyone need to know that?
God damn it! Anyway, so yes, Logan is next week at 5 p.m. If you guys want to call in, that's the deal with the show now, at the general level and above.
I'm saying it right now. Look at that. I want Liam Gilpin is a general, so he's at the general level and above. I want Liam to watch this movie, and Liam, I want you to be a guest on the next episode.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I love you're into it, man.
It's my single favorite superhero movie ever. I adore this movie, like on a level. It's like a next level movie. We're going to get to watch the trailer and cry on air, which is great.
Oh, the trailer's so good.
It's an incredible movie. So the deal with the show, guys, is at the general and above level, we take 2 call-ins per show. Obviously, some movies like The Edge, there will be less people calling because no one's seen this movie but us. But on a movie like Logan,
John stayed on longer.
But we're going to be taking 2 call-ins. So the way to do that is before next Friday. So between now and next Friday and the next week, you got to just send a message on Patreon directly to us on Patreon that you're interested in coming on as a guest on the greatest movie ever made, and we will send you a message on Friday confirming with a link for you to call in on the show. We're super excited. We also have the list of the rest of the movies. Do you want to read them, Drew?
Yeah, dude. Yes, I'm very excited about the rest of the movies. So we decided, since we did a couple on us, we'll still do 10. So we got Logan, Point Break, Mad Max, Fury Road, Live, Die, Repeat, or Edge of Tomorrow, The Nice Guys, Con Air, Predator, Mortal Kombat, Air Force One, and guess what? You're going to get it. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
This is such a good list of movies.
It's so good.
Dude, I'm so hyped for the next 10 weeks. And you know what? We have a question here from Garth McMurray asking, call-ins are for generals only, right? So as it stands right now, that is the setup. In the past, we've done things at like the general level. We'll do a random selection to join the generals chat or something like that. Randomly select someone. Maybe you and I can talk about a way, because right now times are tough, to maybe randomly select somebody, every show, every other show, something like that. Could be kind of a fun thing to involve.
Yeah. I'm into that. Like, getting people to submit if they're interested, and then we can, go through and see if we can randomly pull someone. So let's chit chat about that. And Garth, why don't you send us a message on, is he a patron? Is Garth a patron at a lower level? He is. Yeah. Send us a message on Patreon, Garth, and we'll figure something out. So, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's that. So, guys, we're really excited. It's an amazing list of movies. It was that was the movies that was voted on by you guys. So, patreon.com/Team Action. That poll was up last week, and we got something like 500 or 600 votes. And the top votes were all you guys on, Logan was the most voted for movie. So, we're bringing that up next week specifically for you guys. We are super, super, super excited. And thanks for watching the very first official episode of the greatest movie ever made.
The greatest movie ever made, with that amazing thumbnail. So we got a couple more donations here we got to get through. Lucas J. Shashek, Commander-in-Chief, salute to you, my friend. Good show, but I would prefer all future movie discussions to be in the form of TikToks. That is that is very fair. And then we got Drunken Prayer here with a €5 donation. Says Jeff Bridges, maybe keep getting better, even if he was always good. Oh, that's actually a good point. I thought you were talking about him coming in, being the guy from True Grit.
We're gonna kill the motherfucker.
What
What I can do for you, son? You like True Grit, right? Like, obviously, we're gonna end the episode, but you recently watched it and you loved it.
The 2010 one, I adored it. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I guess that does it, man. This is The Edge is the greatest movie ever made, and I'm excited, very excited to talk Logan because I think I could legitimately give a real pitch on why that's the greatest movie ever made.
Yeah, so tune in, guys, next week, 5 o'clock, and tune in tomorrow night, 5:30 p.m. with very special guest Dan Murrell on The Action Guys. We're excited. It's going to be a great show. We love all of you, and thanks for supporting the channel. See you guys soon.
Salute. Bye, guys.